Welcome everybody to another edition of the Hurry Up. I'm your host Adam. Let's get into it. So the playoff wild card weekend is almost coming to an end. You still have the Arizona versus Rams game. We'll get into that. But man, what a weekend of football. Some crappy games, some good games, a lot of different things happening. Two teams meeting up in the AFC. Buffalo basically blowing out New England. I mean, that was one of those most unexpected games. I thought New England would have at least, put up a fight. But man, Buffalo came to play. Micah Hyde's interception, I think, is where the game turned. I really do believe that. Nobody thought that was coming. Everybody thought that possibly was a touchdown or something else was going to happen, and boom, right in the hands of Micah Hyde. And the dynamic changes. The Buffalo goes down and scores, and now they're up 14-0. And it changes because now the New England Patriots have to rely on their young quarterback to get them back in the game. And obviously, the moment was a little too big for him, and that defense was smothering. And Buffalo made a statement. They won their home game. They advanced to the divisional round. They're going to be playing Kansas City. We'll get into that game in a minute. But it was unexpected for a New England team to get blown out the way they got blown out. Now maybe there's a new, maybe Buffalo Bills just told New England, hey, we're the new top dogs in town. You got to come through us now for the AFC East. And the next game we're going to touch on is actually the Raiders-Bengals game. That was the best game, I think, of the weekend in terms of just overall play, in terms of going back and forth, in terms of closeness throughout the game. I really enjoyed Cincinnati winning. Joe Burrow really took his team and put it on his back. That team is got a middle of the road defense, but what happens sometimes is that defenses start to play well towards the end of the year, and I think the Bengals defenses played a pretty good game. They have decent levels of pass rush throughout their entire team. They got Sam Hubbard. They had Trey Hendricks who came through with them. He had 15 sacks this year. So they've got pass rushers that you're going to start to see a lot more pass rushers come through. It happened in San Francisco game. We'll get into that in a minute. But I liked what Cincinnati did. And you know what? Good job for the Vegas Raiders. We'll see now what they're going to do with their coach. I think you should keep the guy. The guy did win. Had a winning record, 7-5 down the stretch when he took over. So that's a winning record, and he got him into the playoffs. So if I were the coach, unless you can get Jim Harbaugh and you know that he's 100% committed to coming, I would just let it be, let him run it back, and see what they can do. Add a few pieces here and there. I think you're going to see the Raiders go after probably defensive backs and linebackers. I mean, even though they have Ndakwe and Max Crosby, who is an absolute beast in the playoffs, and towards the end of the regular season, they still need a little bit more firepower. I think Josh Jacobs is pretty good as a running back. And I think a lot of drop passes have cost teams games. So we'll get into that. The next game we want to touch on, those are the two games on Saturday. We'll go with the three games on Sunday. And then I'll give you my thoughts on the Monday night game. So the Eagle game. The Eagle game, man. It's funny because the Eagle game, they had a chance in this game. If they didn't drop passes and didn't get penalties at inopportune times, there were chances in this game to keep it close, chip away at the lead, make the score a little closer. It looks like it was 31-15, and everyone's going to say, well, if you didn't see the game, you're going to say, well, the Eagles were only down 2 scores. It felt like a blowout from the start, but when you have opportunities and you throw interceptions and you get penalties, and then you get a 30-yard gain that gets called back for an offensive lineman downfield. These are things that a young team like the Eagles needed to overcome, and their quarterback at this point didn't play his best game of the season. They needed him to play his A game, and I think a lot. It was just a perfect storm. The Eagles play a different team. Maybe they advance, but Tampa Bay was the perfect storm for them. That defense came in waves. They confused Hurst. They also made opportune times. They also made a mistake, a big one, where the helmet came off of the DB. Now, the game was down 2 possessions with 4 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. If the Eagles had scored a couple field goals and you're down in the fourth quarter with 4 minutes to go, you better shot at winning. So, I mean, the Eagles, we'll see where they go from here. I think they're going to keep Jalen Hurts as their quarterback. He got them to the playoffs. He does bring a lot. He led the NFL in rushing from the quarterback position. There are some intangibles to work with, and if Dak Prescott or David Carr an indication, you can franchise quarterbacks later in the draft. In the draft, will he be a franchise quarterback or will he be just another good Eagles quarterback? Who knows? I think if I'm the Eagles, if I were to compare it to the Giants, that you have a better quarterback situation going forward than the other NFC East team in there, and you even have a better quarterback situation than the Washington football team. So, if I'm the Eagles, you know, congratulations on making the playoffs. Something that many folks didn't think they were going to make. It's unfortunate it was a blowout, but these things happen. Young team, build off of it next year. Nick Sirianni can now build on that. The players are going to now buy in because they're like, listen, we got to the playoffs. This worked. Let's keep this rolling. As for the Buccaneers, they look primed for another big run. We'll see if the injuries take their toll. Against better competition. Not having a Chris Godwin. Not having guys like that down the stretch, like Leonard Fournette, may hurt them. We'll see. I mean, it looks like they've overcome. It looks like everybody's stepping up. That's the thing, too, people need to remember, is that sometimes the role players need to step up on your team. A lot of these young teams that were in there, or these wild card teams, like Pittsburgh, had a lot of drops, a lot of mistakes, turnovers, inopportune time, penalties, and the other team with the less penalties, less turnovers, more discipline and solid defense and run games won the football games. And this was a trend throughout the three playoff games. Now you go to the game, I think one of the best games we played beside the Raiders and Bengals was the Cowboys and the 49ers. Not only is it a great rivalry renewed, and I know I was talking to some people and they didn't kind of comprehend it because they were either younger or didn't see this rivalry. This was a big rivalry. This was one of those things in the mid-'90s growing up where it was the West Coast versus, it was San Francisco versus Dallas. It was a big game. You had Montana, you had Aikman, you had Steve Young, you had Charles Haley. I mean, they showed a stat in the game where Deion Sanders changed teams. They went from the 49ers to the Cowboys. Terrell Owens, 49ers, Ken Norton Jr., and Charles Haley. I mean, that's crazy to see how at least 4 players change the teams. And by the way, all of them are Hall of Famers, which is another crazy thing. I mean, Ken Norton's probably the only one that's not, but I would throw in there that Ken Norton should probably be a Hall of Fame player, especially since he was on a lot of championship teams. I mean, Charles Haley has 5 Super Bowl rings by a defensive lineman, the only player I think in the history of the game to have 5 Super Bowl rings that's not a quarterback or anything like that. And he did it with 2 different teams. He won a couple with the Cowboys and he won a championship with the 49ers. So, this rivalry, goes back years and years and is one of the best in the game of football. I think, the playoffs needed the Cowboys 49ers. It didn't end up going the Cowboys' way. A lot of things to be desired. Dak Prescott, I felt, struggled in the game. I think the defense of the 49ers kind of schemed their way. Had a very good scheme, very good game plan. Kind of confused the Cowboys' offensive line. You watch them; they were doing stunts, they were getting sacks, they were knocking down passes, and I just think this is a tale of 2 teams. The Cowboys had the most penalties in a playoff game, the second most penalties in a playoff game, 14. And that hinders you, especially when the penalties come, how they come. They stall drives, and not to mention drop passes, sack fumbles. I mean, a lot of things went wrong for the Cowboys. This game could have been a blowout. It really could have been. I mean, the 49ers, if the 49ers score 3 field goals on top of a couple of touchdowns, but if they score a touchdown over those 3 field goals, we're talking about, we're talking about a 30-17 game, right? We're not talking about 23-17 down at the wire, And so the 49ers, they need to clean some stuff up. They came ready to play. They're a team I would not want to play in the playoffs right now. They came in hot. They beat the Rams. They now beat the Cowboys. They're going to Lambeau Field against a team that they had, I wouldn't say success against, but it wasn't a blowout game when they played each other early on in the season. I know a lot has changed, but they're going to watch that film. They're going to watch a lot of the film of what the Packers have done. They're going to watch the Cowboy film. They're going to put it all together, and Kyle Shanahan's going to come up with a game plan. And let's see what kind of quarterback they got, because Jimmy G's a bit banged up, and you saw it affect him on some of the throws, especially the interception inside his own territory. That's something I would if I were the 49ers, I wouldn't have been throwing the football anyways. I would have just been turning it and handing it off to Deebo Samuel or one of your other running backs, and then punting it away and letting your defense win the game for you. Because to me, there's a time to be aggressive and there's a time not to. And then on 4th and 1, you don't need to motion your lineman. You're motioning Trent Williams, to the other side of the line. That's what got you the 5-yard penalty, because he probably has never been in motion, is trying to be perfect, and here you are, you get the 5-yard penalty, and then of course they get another penalty, and now it's 4th and 11, and you're punting the football away. It's just those type of things. Coaches get too cute in certain aspects of the game. The Raiders, I think the Raiders did it with when they went to go run a reverse, they did a Hunter Renfrow reverse, and he got tackled in the backfield. It's like, why not just run it? I mean, people know you're going to do it. It's big on big. Just go out there and get the job done. And we're talking about half an inch for the 49ers, right? So you shouldn't have been motioning at all. You should just lined your guys up and went for it. And then, of course, the third game was Kansas City versus, Pittsburgh. And that game was just ugly from the jump. Pittsburgh, J.J. Watt placed on Monday night. But T.J. Watt came in, had a sack fumble. I mean, that guy Hayward was all over the place. He was crushing Kansas City. But it was funny because the game is, in the first quarter is tied, and then, the Pittsburgh scores. And it's as if, Kansas City goes, we're playing a football game now? Okay. And, then the Pittsburgh Steelers had no answer. They didn't blitz, and then when they did blitz, they didn't get home, and they left guys open. And, Kansas City, man, when they're on, they're on. So this makes for next week's matchup against Buffalo amazing. First off, Buffalo's going to Arrowhead, a place that they've struggled to play. But let's see what that Buffalo defense can do against this high-powered offense. Remember, Buffalo put up 47 points. That was a statement. They were telling the rest of the NFL, yeah. And I'm sure they were also knowing that they probably also thought Kansas City was going to win. So I guarantee you they were also like, listen, Kansas City, you're going to have to deal with us too. We got an offense as well. Don't be sleeping on us either. So I think it's going to be the matchup of the weekend. I also looking forward to the 49ers against Green Bay. Again, another big game, another big rivalry field back in the mid-90s. Green Bay's another team that popped its head up every once in a while in the playoffs, whether it be the divisional round or the championship round. 49ers, Green Bay, and Dallas were all those three teams always fighting for that chance at the Super Bowl in the 90s. So that's going to be a good one. I think, I do believe, the Bengals against Tennessee. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. Really, really do believe that's going to be an interesting matchup. I'm an underdog fan, so I'm going to root for the Bengals. But I think this is a game you'll find out if Ryan Tannehill's the man. Because if Tennessee can control the game with their defense and the run game, they'll win the football game. If they can't and they get into a shootout with Joe Burrow, I'm going to put the advantage on Cincinnati. I just think their quarterback is better. I know he hasn't been through it, but he's cool, calm, and collected. And we'll see what happens. This is why you play the games. This is the Bengals' chance. Houday Nation is going crazy. Houday Nation, baby. Houday Nation. I'm going with them. So for my picks of the AFC to represent in a championship game, I'm going with the Buffalo Bills. I think the Buffalo Bills are destiny. This team right now, people are, I think Kansas City, even though Kansas City's hitting their stride, I think Buffalo's going to come give them a whack. And don't be surprised if the Bengals end up in the AFC Championship game as well. Interesting picks, I know. For the NFC side, I'm gonna stay with the underdogs again. I'm gonna go with the 49ers. Headed to the championship game, and it just depends on the Rams or the Bucks. The Rams or the Cardinals. I think if it's Rams Bucks, I will take the Rams. If it's Cardinals Bucks, I'll take the Bucks. And then so those are my picks. Those are the recaps of the games. This is the Hurry Up. I'm your boy Adam. Let's get it.